Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udire Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Shivadaya Krishna Vishnaya Bhutale Srimati Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachakra. Hare Krishna. So we will start our discussion on the Bhagavatam from 1.7.28. Just want to check if you're able to see the share screen.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see in here.
Okay, because it's saying your screen sharing is paused. But anyway, if it's working, okay.
You want to scroll up and down and see?
Is it working?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. So 1.7.28. Nayasya nayatam kinched astam pratyavakarshanam jayastrate junmadam astrajanyo hayastratejasa. O Arjun, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon. Since you are expert in the military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your own weapon. So, quick recap. We had come to a point where Ashwathama, fearing for his life, on seeing Krishna and Arjun rapidly gaining on him, he considers his horses to be tired. So he casts the Brahmastra. For some reason, it keeps coming back and saying that your share is not working. Okay, anyway. So
we can see your screen, Prabhu.
Okay. It's coming up with this pop-up. Please move this window away from the shared application. Not sure what it means. But anyway, if it's working, it's fine. So Krishna says, "O Arjun, only another Brahmastra can counteract this weapon." So we see Krishna here, he is offering a very practical solution to the problem that is being faced by Arjun. So Arjun has been chasing Ashwathama, and then he sees this bright, dangerous effulgence coming towards him, and he turns to Krishna with prayers to glorify him. Now, Krishna does not respond with a philosophical, transcendental, spiritually incisive answer. He does not say that, Arjun, you're not the body or the soul. He does not say that all that is happening to you is an influence of your karma, or how the material is temporary and spiritual eternal. But he gives Arjun a practical and an actionable solution. He says that only that since you are an expert in the military science, subdue this weapon's glare with the power of your own weapon. So this is also the art of preaching. That when somebody comes with a problem, then that's not the time when the person is really looking for transcendental spiritual solutions. Even if the person is relating to you as a mode, so many of them have this service of being mentors, and in that role, if devotees will come and they will present their real life problems. So important to keep the spiritual perspective in mind, but also important to follow Krishna's footsteps and give practical solutions. So we see Krishna do that over here. He is asking Arjun to cast his own Brahmastra. So Krishna says that there is no other option. Now that itself is a little alarming. That Krishna is implicitly indicating that any other option that is there will be even more dire. So the option that Arjun has is to counteract one Brahmastra with another Brahmastra. But any other option that is available on the table is even worse. So Krishna says, Nahi asya. So he is certainly. Na means no. That's certainly not kinchit. That there is anything anyaman or another astram or another weapon that can prati avakarshanam, that can counteract the reaction of the Brahmastra. So Krishna does not explicitly ask Arjun to cast a Brahmastra, but implicitly is saying that because there is no other weapon other than a Brahmastra that can counteract the influence of a Brahmastra, so implicitly he is asking Arjun to cast his Brahmastra. So the only solution available to Arjun from Krishna's perspective is that he says, you subdue, Jahi, this very powerful, Unmadham Astra Teja. Astra Teja means this powerful glare of the weapon by Astra Tejasa, by your own weapon. And again, based on the context of the previous sentence, where he says that there is no other way to counteract a Brahmastra, Arjun understands that when he says your own weapon, he is pointing to Arjun casting his own Brahmastra. So Arjun, in case he has any doubts, Krishna assures him, he says that he astragya. So here he again used he, but in a different way. That's certainly astragya, that you have the knowledge of this weapon. And Arjun did have the knowledge because he was trained by the same teacher that had trained Ashwathama, which is his guru, Dronacharya. In fact, Dronacharya had trained Arjun not only in casting the Brahmastra, but also in withdrawing the Brahmastra. And earlier on, we had seen that Dronacharya had purposefully neglected to give that knowledge to Ashwathama because he considered Ashwathama to be unqualified to receive that knowledge. Okay, any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I'm just like you made this point about not answering, like basically Lord Krishna he responded saying that you cast your own Brahmastra to counter it, and then he didn't really give like a spiritual solution or spiritual answer to this problem. But I'm just trying to understand, like, what would have been the spiritual answer in this case, if it had to be, like, I mean, just trying to understand, like.
Yeah, it's a good question. So conceptually, a spiritual answer could be that Arjun, you're not the body. So let the Brahmastra destroy your body because you will go back to Godhead. Or he might say that Arjun, just accept this as a reaction of your own karma. So these are general uh, uh, general purpose spiritual answers. There are specific spiritual answers also that Krishna could have given Arjun, about the position of the position of Arjun in executing Krishna's pastimes, or the position of Ashwathama in future pastimes. But Krishna does not do that. So Arjun places a material problem in front of him, and Krishna actually gives him a material solution. But the art of preaching is that material solution eventually leads a person to make spiritual advancements. And in a way, we see that in our spiritual masters. We see that of course, in Srila Prabhupada and senior devotees, that when somebody goes to them with a practical problem, that I've lost my job, I'm very much distressed, and they won't preach to them saying that this is ugra karma and grahastha life is only meant to draw you into this bhavasagar, but they will give them practical solutions. That maybe you should look for another job, maybe you should stay calm while things work out by themselves. But in this process, the person develops faith in the relationship. So later on, when they receive more direct spiritual instructions, then their heart and ears are already open. So so in a way, it is it is a slightly different manifestation of the principle of Yukta Vairagya, where where our spiritual masters or our other devotees, they're using material situations for helping make spiritual advancements.
So Prabhuji, like to give material solution is I mean, as far as I understand, would be for somebody who's on the bodily concept of life, right? Like, I mean, they are attached to the body, or they're thinking about the body, or they're thinking about keeping the body and soul together. But Arjuna was definitely not on the material or the bodily platform. So
he was acting that part. So it's one of those questions that is asked is, if Arjun is an eternal associate of Krishna, why did he need to hear the Bhagavad Gita? Or same thing with, when Krishna came, he came with his eternal devotees, but they were all playing a part for our benefit. So in that context, yes, he did need to hear this.
And is that why, Prabhuji, like we see a lot of exalted devotees, like praying when their life is in danger, that I mean, they're just playing the part, that like Arjuna's situation right now is like that, and then we see a lot of devotees are like, I mean, in Prahlad Maharaj was I mean, he did not really pray for his protection, but there are a lot of other devotees that we see in Bhagavatam itself, stories that they started praying when there was a calamity, or when there was a danger in front of them. That
True. So some of them are Mishra Bhaktas. They're like us, that they have devotion to Krishna, but they also have material attachment. I mean, the classic example is Prajapati Daksh and sage Vashishta. So when Daksh was killed, even though Daksh is a Prajapati, very, very exalted personality, but he was very attached to the material conception. So he was he was such an exalted devotee that he had personal darshan of Krishna, which is a non-trivial activity. But he was also attached materially. When Krishna came, he asked for benediction, saying that may I produce progeny. and Krishna reciprocated. Similarly, there is a pastime, I forget the name of the king, but there's a pastime of how a king asked Vashishta to perform, because Vashishta was his Kul Guru. Krishna, the king asked Vashishta to perform a ceremony for him, a yajna for him, but Vashishta was busy. So instead, he invited somebody from Deva. It was either Brahaspati or somebody else to perform the yajna. When Vashishta came and he found out, he became very angry, and then he cursed the king to die. But because the king was in the right, and he also had a lot of spiritual potency, he cursed Vashishta to die. So because of the curse, both of them died. But the king was spiritually more exalted. So when he died, he said, "This is a good opportunity for me to get rid of my material bindings," and he went back to Godhead. But Vashishta was not. So he held on to his subtle body because by his yogic powers, and of course the pastime that you probably all know is that he was born as the son of, or as the common son of Mitra and Varun. So some of these personalities, even though they're exalted, they're still to a different extent. Now, of course, Vashishta is spiritually much more advanced than us, but he still has material desires, and so do we. So based on where the pendulum is, one may be asking, really because of the material desires, or for cases like Kunti Devi and Arjun and the gopis, they're just asking to assist Krishna in his pastimes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Any other question, comments?
Prabhuji, one question, Prabhu.
Mm-hmm.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that because Ashwadhama is not qualified, so that is the reason Dronacharya has not taught him on returning that weapon back. Like he only knows sending the weapon but not taking it back.
Mm-hmm.
So if that in that case, because my understanding is not taking back means that weapon keeps on going and destroy the whole universe.
So this was discussed in one of the earlier classes, that Ashwathama, when he found out that Dronacharya had given this knowledge to Arjun, he became to some extent envious, but also because of his competitive spirit. So he went to his father and he said that you should give me this knowledge. And Dronacharya was hesitant because he didn't consider Ashwathama to be qualified, but he was also very affectionate to his son. So he kind of compromised. He gave him the knowledge to cast the weapon, but not to withdraw it. And Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports that a warrior is not supposed to cast a weapon unless he knows how to withdraw it. So at least with that understanding, and this is not explicitly stated in Mahabharata, but it is inferred by different commentators, that with that understanding, Dronacharya gave Ashwathama the knowledge that he has the knowledge, but he doesn't have the knowledge.
Sure, true. Yeah. So it is still Ashwadhama's fault only, casting that weapon. Not.
Yes, he was not supposed to do it for several reasons. One of them being that he does not know how to withdraw it, and the other, of course, being that it's kind of like somebody comes to you with a knife, and you detonate a nuclear bomb. So it's disproportionate.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll do 1729. Sutta vacha shutva bhagvata proktam faguna paraviraha Prashtavapastam parikramya Brahman Brahmastaram Sandane. Sri Sutta Goswami said, hearing this from the personality of Godhead, Arjun touched water for purification, and after circumambulating Lord Sri Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counteract the other one. So in this verse, Arjun is referred to as Fagunaha, and that is one of Arjun's name, because he's born in the month of Chaitra, which actually we just passed, or maybe we are still there, not sure, but it's February, March, the month of Chaitra. So in the month of Chaitra, the full moon is in the nakshatra of Faguni. So because he was born at this time, under the influence of this nakshatra, he's also called Faguni. Krishna also calls Arjun Paraviraha. So Ha means killer, like Atmaha. In his Upanishad, Atmaha is killer of the soul. Viraha is, Paraviraha is, Vira is people who are Veer or brave. Paravir is great warriors. So Paravira is that Arjun is one who is capable of killing and conquering great warriors. So Krishna is using that name to indicate that he's quite competent to defeat Ashwathama. So Arjun acts as per what he has heard. So Sutta uses the term Shrutva Bhagavata Proktam. So whatever he has heard, Krishna say. Bhagavata Proktam Shrutva. So that is the means of communication. That is how we also operate. Bhagavat Proktam, whatever Krishna says, Shrutva. We hear that and then we act upon it. So that's the real mood of a devotee, to act as per the instructions of Krishna. Whether in this case Krishna is personally giving this instruction, or it is coming through the media of a guru, a sadhu, or a shastra, nevertheless it's all Bhagavata Prokta. It's all the word of Krishna. So what does Arjun do? So Spashatva Apa, that by touching water he purifies himself, and water is considered as a means of both gross and subtle purification. So when we do Atma Shuddhi, Bhuta Shuddhi, then we take a bath, or we wash our hands or feet, and when we do Mantra Shuddhi, then we again use water. So like when we do Achaman, then the water is the carrier of the mantras. So when we say Om Keshvaya Namah, Om Madhavaya Namah, so we are basically, or the process that is given is that we should hold the water in the palm of our hand, and then while looking at the water, we should chant the mantras, and then we should sip the water. So the water actually becomes the media for subtle purification. So in this case, Arjun is following the latter path, that he's sipping the water for his subtle purification, and then as instructed by Krishna, Brahmastaram Sandade, that he cast his own Brahmastra. So the process Arjuna is following is very similar. So if you look at 1.7.20, Ashwathama follows the same process. So 1.7.20 translation so this is in the context of what Ashwathama did. He touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon chanting of the hymns for throwing the nuclear weapons. So this is what Ashwathama does, this is what Arjuna does. But there is one difference between what Ashwathama does and what Arjuna does. Does anybody notice, based on this verse, what is the difference between the two?
Shrutva Bhagavata Proktam. He heard what Krishna said and he followed.
Yes, that is there. I was looking for something else, but what you're saying is right.
And you mean the subtle purification? Because probably Ashwadama is in a mood.
No, that was done by both.
Sure.
Parikramya Brahmam. That he circumambulated Krishna. So both of them have done the same action. Both of them have followed the process correctly, which is manifest by the appearance of the Brahmastra for casting the Brahmastra. They took water, they sipped it, they chanted the mantras, and they cast the Brahmastra. But Ashwathama, he was taking shelter of his own mind. Arjun, he was taking shelter of Krishna. That is manifest by the fact that before casting the Brahmastra, he circumambulated Krishna. So he first purified himself by sipping, by sparshtuva apaha, and then he further purified himself with parikramya ramam. And then he completely purified himself with Shrutva Bhagavata Prokta. So these are the processes that we also follow for our purification. The only one that is missing over here is more like the gross purification, the snan, etc. that we do. But otherwise, these are the processes that we do, that we follow the Vedic processes to purify our subtle consciousness. Then circumambulating the Lord is Padya Seva. So this is one of the forms of bhakti that we manifest, and complete purification is Sharanagati. Sharanagati is following the instructions of Krishna. So we see Arjun doing all three of them, displaying the mood of a fully surrendered devotee. One thing that we'll also notice when we read the translation of this verse is that Srila Prabhupada is translating Brahmastra as the nuclear weapon. And it is a rough translation. So Brahmastra is obviously not a nuclear weapon, because the fact that it is being cast by mantras and by a blade of grass means that it's not a nuclear weapon, or nuclear weapon as we understand. But Srila Prabhupada is referring to the destructive power. And when the nuclear weapon was first exploded, so that was the first time mankind got a sense that they hold the power to destroy the whole planet. So before that, the weapons they had were like gunpowder or bombs, and they could have small localized destruction. But when they first exploded the nuclear bomb, then they got this sense that we can destroy the entire planet. And that time, so Prabhupada wrote these translations in the 50s. So at that time, this sense was very prominent. So Prabhupada is constantly referring to the power of the Brahmastra as that of the nuclear weapon. Okay, any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
God Sundar Das. Prabhu, the firing of Brahmastra by Ashwathama, and after that, the whole events that's happening with Krishna and Arjuna, Arjuna surrendering to Krishna, and he's giving a response. There seems to be like there is enough time available, but generally when we see in the war battlefield, the response given is very instantaneous, whereas here it looks like it took time, and there's a lot of time that's, I don't know how much time was spent, but looks like there was enough time to do the homework and respond. In today's situation, it looks a little impractical. How do we understand this, Prabhu?
So this is explained a little bit more in Mahabharata, and I think the details are they kind of work out in a way that it allows for this time, because one would think that when a Brahmastra is coming to you, at the speed of thought or at the speed of light, then Arjun reciting the prayers to Krishna, Krishna responding to Arjun, Arjun sipping water for purification, circumambulating Krishna, and then casting his Brahmastra. Maybe, as you're pointing out, seems that there's sufficient time. But in the Mahabharata, it is explained that when the Brahmastra is cast, then its effect is stopped temporarily and I forget the exact, but the exact sequence of events. But both Narad Muni and Srila Vyasadeva, they appear and they stop the two Brahmastras. I don't remember who stops which Brahmastra. And after that, they are the ones who basically request the Brahmastra to be withdrawn, which is when Arjun withdraws the Brahmastra.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, 1/7.
Why did Arjuna, Prabhuji, quick question, why did Arjuna circumambulate the Lord? Was there any reason that?
So it's so this is just successive level of purification. It's like when you go to the temple, then one of the things that you do is give obeisances to the deities. Not all temples have that facility, but if you go down south, then you will see that all temples will have that facility, that there is a parikrama marg around the deities. So just like we give obeisances, then circumambulating the deities is one of the angas of bhakti. So so the way it's understood is that Arjun is going through successive levels of purification. He's sipping Achman to have subtle purification. He is in a way giving obeisances to Krishna for a higher level for spiritual purification, and then he's following Krishna's instructions for his complete purification.
So, Prabhuji, is water the only element that purifies a subtle body, or amongst the 5 gross elements, earth, water, air, fire, ether, is water the only one that purifies the subtle? Or?
The water is most commonly used, but if you look at the section in Harivams in the Red Book in Haribhakti Vilas, there they say that if there is no water, then you can use mantra shuddhi. You can purify yourself simply by the effect of the mantras. But my understanding is that the water is the more suitable media to carry this kind of purification. Okay, so let's continue. 1/730. Samatyanayoonyam ubayos tejasi sharasamvrate avartya rodasikham cha vavradhate arkavahinivat. So if everybody can mute, I think somebody has an unmuted. Ravi Prabhu, I think you're unmuted. Okay, that's better. No, now you're unmuted. Yeah. So, so the translation: when the rays of the two Brahmastra combined, a great circle of fire, like the disk of the sun, covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. So Sutta is now describing the effect of the so the Brahmastras have not collided, but they are in proximity. So he's describing the effect of it. So that's why he says samatya, that by the combinations of the two Brahmastras, anuyonayam ubhayos. So ubayos also translates to so ubayos means both. So it means that they both were maintaining their distinct identity. So the Brahmastras are approaching one another, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary, he says that the fires, Tejasi, of the two Brahmastras, Shara, surrounded with arrows, increased Samvrate, covering Avartya, the heaven and the earth, Rodasi. It was like the combination of the Arka, the sun, and Vahinivat. This Vahinivat is considered to be the fire that comes from the mouth of Sankarshan at the time of devastation. So with words, Sutta Goswami is painting a dire picture of what's going on. That the two Brahmastras are approaching one another, and as they approach one another, the fires, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds arrows also, that the Brahmastras were also surrounded with arrows. They increased each other's heat, samprati. They were increasing each other's heat, and also they were increasing their scope of influence. So they were covering not only Rodasi, not only the earth, but also they were covering Avartya, not only earth, but also the earth and the heavenly planets, the Rodasi. And in order to give a sense of what people were experiencing, so he uses a rule of logic of taking the reference of something that is knowable and then extending it. So when you want to explain something that is beyond somebody's comprehension, so you take something that the person comprehends and then you extend it. So everybody has experience of the sun. So he says that it is like the Arka, the sun. Now, nobody has the experience of Vahinivat. Nobody has experience of the fire emanating from the mouth of Sankarshan. But he uses the reference of sun to say that it's like the sun multiplied 1,000,000 times over. Okay, so we'll do the next verse. Any question on this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
While they cast the Brahmastra, let us say Ashwatthama first, right? So he's definitely learned, very much learned, and he knows the effect also, right?
Mm-hmm.
My question is, does he has the full understanding of that effect, or it is only half knowledge or something like that? Like it's not fully equipped with his knowledge, I should say. Because he has a knowledge certainly, and he is way above like a normal understanding, like, right? Like if he's using a Brahmastra, he's very learned person.
I guess your question is that why did Ashwatthama use the Brahmastra if it would destroy the three worlds? So the answer is that Ashwatthama had directed the Brahmastra towards Arjun. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the early purport, that the Brahmastra is both a gross and a subtle weapon, that while it is capable of a lot of destruction, it will only destroy the target that it is intended to. And later on, we'll see when Ashwatthama directs the Brahmastra to the womb of Uttara, then it does not harm Uttara. It only harms the embryo in the womb of Uttara. So what we are seeing here is a result of the collision of two Brahmastras. And that is where the results are getting not only dire, but perhaps exceeding everybody's imagination.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. Good question. Okay, 1731. Drishtvaastra tejastutayostrillokan pradahan mahat dayamanaha prajaha sarva samvartakam amam sata. All the population of the three worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the Samvartaka fire which takes place at the time of annihilation. So Sutta is continuing to describe the effect of the collision of the two Brahmastras. So he says that the effect is felt by Prajaha Sarva, by people all over. All over where? He says Trilokam, all over the three worlds. So the three worlds, Trilokam is again, it's a term that is used to describe different kinds of three worlds. In the Gayatri mantra, the three lokam or the three worlds that are described is Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha. So Bhu is considered to be this world, Bhuva is the sky, and Swaha is the next world. And Gayatri is like a template, so the interpretation is very context sensitive. But the general understanding is that the three loka in the Gayatri, they refer to the Prithvi lok, which is where the humans are, the Pitra lok, where the ancestors are, and the Swarga lok, where the demigods are, or the planets of the Manav, the Pitras, and the Devas. Another interpretation of the three worlds is the upper, middle, and the lower planetary system, which in turn includes the 14 planetary systems that run all the way from Brahmalok to Patal-lok, which is essentially the complete material universe. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he indicates that the three lokam used over here is the later understanding, that it was something that was experienced all the way from Brahmalok to Patal-lok. So Prabhupada in the purport, he writes, the three worlds are the upper, lower, and intermediate planets of the universe. Although the Brahmastra was released on this earth, the heat produced by the combination of both weapons covered all the universe and all the populations on all the different planets. They began to feel the heat excessively and compare it to that of the Samvartaka fire. No planet, therefore, is without living beings, as less intelligent men think. Prabhupada uses this as an opportunity to preach also. So this Mahat Pradhat, the severe blazing, and the Dayamana, the burning sensation, is being compared to the Samvartakam, destruction. And so just in terms of a side note or a topic of education is that Samvartaka actually refers to the energy of destruction. And it manifests itself in any one of the forms that is most suitable for destruction. So it can manifest as water, as wind, as fire, or as earth. So in the Govardhan pastime, when Indra summons the Samvartaka clouds, then they pour devastating rain and winds over Vrindavan. So their Samvartaka is manifesting as water and air. Then Markandeya Rishi, when he describes Samvartaka, he describes it as devastating winds. So this is when Markandeya Rishi is witnessing the end of the universe. Then in another pastime, Rudra, he uses Samvartaka as a fire to subdue a bull demon. And Gargamuni, he describes Samvartaka as a comet of destruction, as burning matter. So Samvartaka essentially is energy. And generally it is kept aside, used only at the time of destruction, but it can also be summoned at special needs, as Indra did it during Govardhan pastime, and we see this other pastimes. In the present context, Samvartaka is manifesting as heat. It is manifesting as heat or fire, based on the description of Sutta Goswami. Okay, questions, comments? Okay, 1732. Prajapadravam alaksya lokvyatikaram chatam matam chava sudevasya sanjahar arjuna dvayam. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general populace and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjun at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons as Lord Shri Krishna desired. So the key word in this verse is Matam Vasudevasya, the opinion or the desire of Shri Krishna. So that's the nature and definition of a devotee, Karmani Matam Vasudevasya. That do your activities according to the desires of Krishna. So Arjun doesn't wait for Krishna Vacha or Bhagwan Vacha, but he understands the desire of Krishna and acts accordingly. Later on, we'll see that Arjun acts according to Matam Vasudevasya at an even deeper level. And so I don't want to give away the glory of those verses, but we'll see that how an intelligent devotee understands Matam Vasudevasya and acts according to it. So in the interest of not speaking too many verses, Sutta Goswami doesn't go into the finer details over here, but the Mahabharata does. And what the Mahabharata says that, and this also answers Gaurasundar Prabhu's question, that seeing the imminent destruction of the planets, the Loka Vyatikaram, and the disturbance of the people in general, the Praja Upadravam, both Srila Vyasadeva and Srila Narad Muni, by the yogic powers, they halt the two Brahmastras. And then they demand it to be withdrawn. So Arjun then looks to Krishna for guidance and understands that Matam Vasudevasya, he understands that Krishna does want him to withdraw the weapon. So then Arjun Sanjahara, then Arjun Dvayam. So Dvayam means two. So Arjun withdraws both the Brahmastras. Here there is a little bit of difference between how the pastime relates in Mahabharata and Bhagavatam. In Mahabharata it is written that Arjun withdraws his own Brahmastra, whereas Ashwathama, he redirects his Brahmastra to the womb of Uttara. But in the Bhagavatam it is written that Ashwathama later on, he casts yet another Brahmastra directed to the womb of Uttara. So minor difference in details, but the principles remain the same. Okay, any questions? These verses have very small or no purports, so I am also going fairly quickly over them. Okay, 1733. Tata sadhya tarasa dharunam gautami sutam bhavandamarshatamaraksha pashum rasanyayata. Arjun, his eyes blazing in anger like two red balls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami and bound him with ropes like an animal. So this verse doesn't contain the name of Arjun. It just says Tata, thereupon. but because Arjun was the prime performer of activity in the previous verse, so by continuity we can understand that the action is still performed by Arjun. So Arjun's demeanor is described as Amarshata Akshaha, that his eyes are angry and they are red like copper. So he is visibly very, very angry. Sutta Goswami addresses Ashwathama as Gautami Sutam, the son of Gautami, which is another name of his mother Kripi. So Kripi is a descendant of the sage Gautam, and Gautam, as we know, is one of the 10 Manasputras of Brahma and is one of the Saptarishis. So great personalities, a great personality, which is why Sutta is using this word to indicate the exalted lineage of Ashwathama's mother, that he is the son of Gautami. So a little bit about Kripi, that in the Mahabharata it is given that there was a sage by the name of Sharadvan, and he was born holding an arrow in his hand. Even though he was born in the Brahman lineage, and he grew up to become a great warrior. So he was also performing severe austerities to increase his prowess, and Indra, as usual, became insecure. So he sends an Apsara by the name of Janapadi to distract him. And the Apsara did whatever I guess she did to distract him, and Sharadvan became so distracted that he dropped his weapons and he ran inside the forest to control his senses. But he could not fully control his senses, so involuntarily he discharged semen, which fell on some weeds and became divided into two, from which a boy and a girl were born. So later on, the king of Hastinapur, Maharaj Shantanu, he was traveling there and he saw these two effulgent children, and looking at them he could understand they were children of Brahmins. So he called them Kripa and Kripi, because they were manifestation of Shantanu's mercy. So Kripa became the great Kripacharya, and Kripi became the wife of Dronacharya. So later, when Sharadvan came to know of this, he came to the palace of Shantanu and he explained everything that had happened, and he personally took Kripa under his tutelage and taught him the arts of weapons. So which is why we see that Kripacharya, even though he's the Kulguru of the Pandavas, because he also had the position of a warrior, we see that he's fighting in the battle of Mahabharata. Another thing also to note is that this is more of trivia, that we see in the various scriptures how great personalities are distracted by Apsaras. Most of them are sent by Indra, because Indra wants to break their tapasya, but some of them are inadvertently distracted by Apsaras. So I guess the most prominent example is that of Vishwamitra being distracted by Menaka, and then Shakuntala was born. Then there is this case we just now discussed of Sharadvan being distracted by Janapadi, and Kripa and Kripi was born. Then Gritachi is, I guess, one of the more potent Apsaras, because she is linked with several sages. So Gritachki was the one who distracted Bharadwaj, and Drona was born. So Drona is also born in a very similar way that Kripa is born, from sage Bharadwaj when he was distracted by Gritachi. Then Kritachi also distracts the son of Chyavan Rishi by the name Pramati, and Ruru was born. And according to some Purans, Srila Vyasadeva, he was also distracted by Kritachi, and Sukadev Goswami was born. And then in the Ramayana, we have Vibhandak being distracted by Punchaksthila, and Rishi Shringa was born. And in Mahabharata, we have Mitra and Varun. So these are the two Aditya brothers who were distracted by Urvashi. And Agastya and Vashishta was born. So earlier on, I was answering somebody's question and mentioned the second birth of Vashishta. So this is the second birth of Vashishta, when Mitra and Varun, through their common, through the common discharge, Agastya and Vashishta was born. And then there's the example of Agnidhara and Purvachitti, through which the 9 grandsons of Priyavrat was born. So it does appear that the sages were kind of at the mercy of the Apsaras, even though there are cases of where the sages were able to restrain the senses and curse the Apsaras. Like when Ramba had first come to Vishwamitra, Vishwamitra was not distracted at the time, and he cursed Ramba to become, I think he cursed her to become a rock or something. And there are other cases also. So back to the verse. Sutta Goswami, he calls Ashwathama as Darunam. And Darunam means dangerous or cruel. So it's interesting to see these kinds of adjectives being applied to Ashwathama. So one of the things that you will notice that in all these verses, Ashwathama is never referred to directly. He is always referred to in relation to somebody else, either his father or his mother or his caste as a Brahman. Draupadi will be the first one to actually address him directly later on. But Sutta Goswami and Krishna and Arjun, they never refer to Ashwathama directly for 2 reasons. One is that direct use of the name indicates some kind of intimacy, but also they are generally referring to it in a derogatory way. That they call him Brahma Sutta, Brahma Bandhu, to indicate that he's a fallen, he's fallen, or they call him Guru Putra, or like here they're calling him Gautami Sutam, to indicate that even though he has exalted lineage, but he does not act as per that lineage. But underlying the fact is also the acknowledgement that Ashwathama is not an ordinary person. He's a Maharathi. Actually, he's an Atirathi, and he's a formidable warrior with the knowledge of divine weapons. The fact that he could survive the entire 18 days of Mahabharata. He and Kripa and Satyaki are the only 3 people who survived from the Kaurava side, the battle of Mahabharata. So the Mahabharata also describes his birth. It says that then, O Bharat, from a portion of Lord Shiva, Yama, the Lord of Death, and the personification of lust and anger, all mixed into one, the lotus-eyed son of Drona took birth in the world known as Ashwathama. He was a hero and was painful to his enemies. So anybody who is a partial expansion of Shiva cannot be an ordinary person. And later on we will see that Ashwathama will actually claim his exalted position. In the next Chatur Yuga, Ashwathama takes the position of Vyas. In the next Manvantara, that of Savarni Manu, along with Kripacharya and Srila Vyasadeva, Ashwathama will become one of the Sapta Rishis. Even in the present age, he is one of the 7 Chiranjeevis. So, and he possesses this money that gives him strength and valor. So while we we see the current situation of Ashwathama, it is in stark contrast with his exalted lineage. So he is currently Babanda. Babanda means he is severely tied. Banda means captive. Babanda means severely tied with what? With what? Rashanya, with ropes, as if yatha pashum, as if he is an animal. So he's not even being given the courtesy of a Kshatriya. Arjuna has tied him with ropes, and he's treating him like an animal. And in a way, it is said like if a dog goes mad, then you can always kick the dog away. If an elephant goes mad, then the elephant will kick you away. So Ashwathama, he is currently improperly situated. But that does not diminish his powers, as we can witness by the fact that he has cast the Brahmastra. So that is why Arjuna is not being cruel because he is cruel by nature, but he is acting commensurate to the powers of Ashwathama. Okay, next verse. Any questions for this one?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So two questions, Prabhu. One is, so you just mentioned about how Kripa and Kripi appeared through Apsara, and there are other sages and who beget children through Apsara because of some condition. And Apsaras, we generally know society girls, they are like dasis or just like the so we know that Vidura is born as a dasi putra. Even Narad Muni in his previous life was dasi putra. But the way we consider Narad Muni's previous birth and Vidura's birth is not in a very favorable way. Even though they get spiritual advancement and they get spiritual body the next life. But the way we see the Dasi Putras is not the way we see the sons begotten by the society girls. They are not considered that low. And how can we say that they are not Dasi Putras? So that was one question, Prabhu. I'll let you answer and then I'll ask the second one.
Okay. So there is a difference between Dasi Putra and Apsara. So two differences. I think one is the premise that an Apsara is a Dasi is incorrect. The Apsaras are at a much more exalted position than humans per se. And Prabhupada calls them society girls, and he also calls them prostitutes, but they're heavenly society girls. They're heavenly prostitutes. So they do occupy a substantively higher position. There is a pastime of Pururava and Urvashi, where Urvashi marries Pururava. It's a long pastime, but just to make the point I'm trying to make, that when Urvashi marries Pururava, then everybody asks him that why have you married him, even though he's of human birth and you're of divine origin. And then she has different reasons to do that, but that brings forth the difference. Case of Narad and Vidur, their mothers were humans, and they were Shudranis. So that is one difference. The second difference, which I'm not sure how to articulate from the perspective of what difference does it make, but it's definitely a difference, that in all these cases, the Apsaras did not participate in the creating of the progeny. So so that's the mystical part of it. But it is said in the scriptures that the child comes from the father, the body comes from the mother. So the understanding is, I guess the related understanding is that, and again, this is explained, not explained, but stated in the earlier part of Mahabharata in another pastime of Uparachir Vasu, that once he involuntarily discharges semen, not because of any apsara, but because of his own mind. But then it is said that the semen of a great person is never discharged in vain, which means that it always results in the production of a child. So that's what seems to happen over here. That even though they were under the influence of the apsaras, they discharged semen, but the apsaras did not participate. Vishwamitra is of course an exception, that he accepted Menaka as his wife, and Menaka gave birth to the daughter. But in other cases, there is no indication that the child was born through the facility of the apsaras.
Thank you, Prabhu. I have one more question. So regarding Varnashrama Dharma in the context of a person born in a one Varna takes up the occupation of another Varna. So we have Parashuram as an example, who is a Brahmana who takes up Kshatriya. And here also we see that Ashwatthama and Drona and all the Brahmana people taking up the warrior. Similarly, we have Vishwamitra, where he is a Raja Rishi, and he becomes a Brahma Rishi by austerities and penances. So keeping all these things in mind, and also Bhagavad Gita, I guess Krishna says that it is better for a person to remain in his Varna than take up an occupation in somebody else's Varna. It's better to do the occupation of for which according to one's own nature is, instead of even if doing it incompletely or improperly, that is considered much better than doing an occupation of somebody else's. How do we understand that here, Prabhu?
So there are two things that are relevant in understanding this. So the one is the famous shlok from Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnyamaya Shrestha Guna Karma Vibhagasha, which refutes the premise that a Brahman is born in the house of a Brahman or a Kshatriya is born in the house of a Kshatriya, but one acquires a Varna based on their propensity. So even though Kripacharya, Dronacharya, Ashwatthama were Brahmans, their propensity was that of a Kshatriya, which is why they were fighting in the battle, which is why they were being attacked also. Otherwise, it would be unthinkable for a Kshatriya to attack a Brahman. Even if the Brahman picked up weapons, it would be unthinkable for the Kshatriya. The Kshatriya may defend himself, but to kill a Brahman would be unthinkable. But despite their birth, they took up acting in a different Varna, and thus they acquired that Varna. The second verse that you quote, the understanding there is that Krishna is dissuading people from whimsically changing their Varna. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, and this is also discussed, well, it is actually one of the Brahma, the Bhakti Shastri questions, that how do you understand this? And the understanding is that if one were to be completely anchored in this notion that based on my propensity, this is my varna, then they would become a Brahman one day, a Kshatriya another day, a Vaishya the third day, then a Shudra. And whenever the rules and regulations of a particular varna became difficult, they will go to another varna. So that's why Krishna is saying that better to discharge it imperfectly. Like if a Brahman is not able to perform austerities, then they become a Kshatriya, even though they're not qualified to become a Kshatriya, but they're becoming a Kshatriya to escape the austerities that is mandated with the Brahman Varna. Change in Varnas is generally done under the guidance of a Guru, which we see in all these cases. That Kripa, under the guidance of Sharadvan, he became a warrior. Similarly, Dronacharya, under the guidance of Bhardwaj and Parshuram, he became a Kshatriya. So it's not that they acted upon, they figured out that this is what I need to do and then switched varnas.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. So we'll do 1734. Shibraya ninishantam rajva badva ripupam balat praharjanam prakupito bhagwanam bhujakekshanaha. After binding Ashwathama, Arjun wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjun in an angry mood. So Prabhupada in the purport says, both Arjun and Lord Shri Krishna are described here in an angry mood. But Arjun's eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses, ambuja ikshana. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of his bent of mind towards the cause of his devotee, because that is his transcendental nature. Therefore, even when he is angry, the object of his anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances. So Prabhupada is drawing the difference between the anger that Arjun feels and the anger that Krishna feels. So Arjun feels the anger under the modes of material nature. Krishna, he displays anger in order to give a message, either to his devotee or to someone else. Srila Prabhupada himself would actually display this. There is a pastime of Prabhupada by one of his disciples, I think Shrutakirti Prabhu, that he was sitting in his room in Mayapur, and he was in a very jovial mood. He was doing Krishna Katha surrounded by a group of his disciples. And then one of his disciples came in, and Prabhupada had given him some service. So Prabhupada asked him that what's the status of the service, and the disciple had missed out. He did not do the service. And then Prabhupada very severely chastised him. He was very angry. He yelled at him, and he used harsh words and said the service needs to be done. And the disciple was suitably chastised, and he gave obeisances to Prabhupada. He left the room. And as soon as the disciple left the room, Prabhupada resumed his conversation with the rest of his disciples in exactly the same jovial mood. So I think it's Shrutakirti Prabhu, I'm pretty sure. So he makes the observation that Prabhupada was using anger just as an instrument to correct his devotee. It's not that he became angry. And Prabhupada makes the same distinction between Krishna and Arjun. So Sutta, he paints a very poignant picture in this verse. So the last verse had ended with Arjun dexterously binding Ashwathama. In this verse we see Arjun balat ninishantam, that he is forcibly dragging Ashwathama, his enemy, Ripum, Badva Rajva, strongly bound by ropes. And where is he dragging him? Shibiraya. Shibiraya means, so Shivir means camp. Shibiraya means on the way to his camp. So if you close your eyes for a moment and picture this, that there is this greatly powerful, illustrious Brahman, Ashwathama. He has a mani on his forehead. He's been given the benediction of being a Chiranjeevi. Great personality. And what is the situation now? That he has been pulled down from his chariot. He has been bound by ropes like an animal. And he is being forcibly dragged by Arjun. So that is Ashwathama's current situation. And seeing this, what does Krishna say? So Krishna is called Bhagwan over here. So Bhagwan Prakupitaha. So Prakupitaha means with great anger. He speaks. So Krishna will speak 5 verses to Arjun. And in these 5 verses, he will appear to be testing Arjun. But in reality, he is going to be demonstrating Arjun's greatness to the world. So whenever Krishna puts his devotees to test, he also does that to demonstrate their greatness. Because Krishna is naturally great. He does not have to work hard to demonstrate his greatness. But he's always working to demonstrate the greatness of his devotees. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport in 8.7.19, he quotes Madhavacharya. And so he quotes the verse, Rudrasya yashasho arthaya swayam vishnur visham vibhuhu na sanjhare samartopi vayum choche prasantaye. So this is after the churning of the ocean when the Devas went to Lord Shiva. And along with the Devas, Krishna also went. So Madhavacharya comments with this verse saying that Lord Vishnu was competent to rectify the situation. But in order to give the credit to Lord Shiva, who later drank all the poison and kept it in his neck, Lord Vishnu did not take action. So Krishna is sensing the intent of Arjun. So the fact that Arjun is Shibiraya Ninishantam. So he is sensing the intent of Arjun to carry Ashwathama back to the camp. This is different from the promise of Arjun, which was to carry the head of Ashwathama back to the camp. So in the next six verses, actually, in the next 6 verses, we will see Krishna putting Arjun to test and thereby glorifying Arjun. So this verse ends the section of the chapter from verse 13 to 34, which demonstrates Krishna's interactions with his devotees. Essentially, Krishna's interaction with Arjun. So next week we'll start from 1.7.35. The set of verses go together, and I also want to leave some time for any question answers.
Prabhu,
Yes,
like you said, Ashwadama, although he's a great personality, he was treated very, miserably or, very cheaply. There are so many instances Ashwadama was not as badly behaving like Duryodhan or Dushasan like them, Shekuni like them. But his treatment is looking far worse than Duryodhan or Karna or Shekuni.
I think to some extent it also, You might want to mute Prabhu after you speak. So to some extent, I think it also reflects on Ashwatthama's current position. So what Ashwatthama has done, nobody has done. So he has attacked the Pandavas' camp at night, which is not an action of a Kshatriya. He killed the warriors while they were asleep. He killed the 5 sons of Pandavas while they were sleeping. And seeing Arjun approach, instead of engaging in combat with him, he cast the Brahmastra. So these actions are very, very heinous. Now they reflect a momentary distraction for Ashwatthama, but even in that moment, it has far-reaching ramifications. That he practically destroyed the lineage of the Kurus. He destroyed the lineage of the Panchals. He killed all the Panchals over there, which is why Draupadi was especially upset at him, because he killed Shikhandi, he killed Drishtadumna, he killed Yudhamanyus, Uttamayajus, so all the prominent Panchals he killed there. And that also in a very dastardly way. So that's how the understanding is, that because he acted in this way, he's being also treated in a commensurate way.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, Rangadas.
Hari Bol Sarang Prabhu.
We have seen that in not only in Mahabharata but in other cases also, like great personalities, sometimes they take the position to do, as we said here, some dirty job. Even like Lord Shiva came as Sankaracharya to preach, bogus philosophy, so that to test people or to take people away. And just like Ashwatthama as well, what he has done is abominable. But why this great personality take this position to do such role?
Some of the personalities take it, as you have rightly pointed out, as a service to Krishna. So Shripad Shankaracharya, he took it completely as a service to Krishna. Arjun, he took the bewilderment as a service to Krishna. Parishit Maharaj, he took his insulting of a Brahman as a service to Krishna. And in some other cases, the activities of the personality is used in service of Krishna. So, Jay and Vijay, they offended the 4 Kumars not as a service to Krishna, but they did offend, and then Krishna used that as in his service. So both situations, it just depends on the relationship that Krishna has. Prabhupada mentions once that because the pure devotees are fully surrendered to Krishna, Krishna uses them as he pleases. And that is the case with personalities like Lord Shiva and Arjun and Kunti Devi. And in other cases, Krishna as a master orchestrator, he uses different situations to his benefit, which is like the cursing of Jai Vijay, or on a more extreme scale, you have the demons that come and create an environment for Krishna to appear. They're not doing it as a service to Krishna. Krishna is just using them as an opportunity to perform further his own pastimes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prem Kishore Prabhu.
One question about, we spoke in 1732 about Mattam Vasudevasya. Karmani Matam Vasudevasya. Basically, it is like doing activity according to desire of Krishna. So the question here is how to see that. Like even Guru Maharaj says, like do the activities what it pleases to Krishna, right? In this material concept, where we are, like we tend to be on two sides, like how intelligent, and we will be few times we will be leaning towards, but few times it is not. But in this regard, in 732, even Arjuna, he was looking for guidance. And Arjuna, we can't even compare where we are and Arjuna is. So how we can see in this, like how to follow this matam vasudevasya.
Karmani matam vasudevasya. You're right. When I was reading on the purport, then it did struck me both as a very powerful verse, a very powerful phrase, and one that is perhaps easier said than done. How do we always act according to the desires of Krishna? Philosophically, we know, Krishna is not shy about expressing his desires. He speaks about it voluminously. That what does he want? The challenge is karmani matam vasudeva. So that how do we act as per the challenge? So Krishna helps us there. He sends his desires to us in the form of our spiritual master. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Guru Ashtakam, he says, Yasya prasada bhagavad prasado. That when your spiritual master is pleased, you should understand that Krishna is pleased. So that is one way for us to karmani matam vasudevasya. Then extending that, when we act according to the revealed scriptures, when we please devotees, when we see the symptoms that Krishna wants us to developing in us, which is material renunciation and spiritual attachment. When we see the symptoms of impartiality, of equanimity that Krishna prizes so much, of being the same in both all kinds of duality, anger, distress, happiness, heat, cold, then we know matam vasudevasya, that our karmani is matam vasudevasya. So it's a topic that can have a very long discussion, but given the interest of time, if we act according to the instructions of the spiritual master, the revealed scriptures, and if we act in a way that pleases devotees, if we see the symptoms that Krishna wants us to developing in us, then we can be assured that we are performing activities according to matam vasudevasya.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Some time back, I read about this particular pastime somewhere in detail. And that version mentions that Krishna actually, the whole Pandavas wanted to sleep in the camp when Ashwatthama was about to come and kill all the warriors and the sons of Pandavas. The whole 5 Pandavas were supposed to sleep in the camp, but Krishna actually intervenes and he comes and says, now that you have got victory, according to Dharma Shastra or some Shastra, you have to sleep in the battlefield, not in the camp, because you've been victorious. So he indirectly saves the Pandavas. And for some reason, the Upa Pandavas and the other warriors sleep in the camp. And that's why they are all killed by Ashwatthama. And the 5 Pandavas are saved. So my question is, it looks like Krishna was kind of partial to Pandavas and not favorable to Upa Pandavas because they were left in the camp and allowed to be killed by Ashwatthama. How do you see that, Prabhu?
So this particular explanation does not appear in Mahabharata, but it appears in one of the Puranas. That Krishna he did ask the Pandavas, not at least the version that I read, not to sleep in the battlefield, but to basically begin the planning. So basically Krishna says, now you have to begin working on building bridges. So start working on the diplomacy front. And Draupadi goes to another camp. She does not accompany the Pandavas. She goes to some other camp. I forget the name. But whether the Pandavas were prescient, but they were a little hesitant in leaving the camps. So Krishna, he asks one of the associates of Lord Shiva to guard the camp. And that's the associate that forbids Ashwatthama from entering. And then the other part is there in Mahabharata. And then Ashwatthama performs the yajna to please Lord Shiva, and then he's able to attend the camp. So either way, yes, this is a question that Draupadi asks, that you could have prevented the death of my 5 sons. And Krishna says that I didn't prevent the death of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu is was the favorite son of my favorite sister. He was my favorite nephew. I did not prevent his death. So how can I continue to interfere in the activities of all the living entities? So behind it, of course, there is more sub-stories that when Abhimanyu came, his father had taken this promise that he would only be there for 16 years and then he would come back to him. Abhimanyu is an incarnation of the son of Soma, Buddha, his incarnation of Buddha. So Soma was so attached to Buddha that he didn't want to let him go. But when they said that this is for Krishna, then he said only for 16 years. And Abhimanyu returned after that. Similarly, the Upapandas are Vishwadevas. And when the Upapandavas left their body, the Vishwadevas resumed their position as managing the affairs of the universe. But ultimately, yes, Mahabharata is one thing that you can read at several levels. That ultimately, yes, Krishna was using all of this for our benefit, so that we could see all these interactions going on, so that we could see the confusion in the mind of Arjun, and also, we could see how Krishna at some times he interferes and protects his devotees, but at other times he does not. When when Arjun took the vow for Jaidrath, and Krishna could have stood aside and said, okay, you took the vow, time for you to die. But at that time, he actually literally moved the sun or the clouds, depending on where you read, to stop Arjun's death. So there are times when he does that, but there are times when he does not. So, Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So we'll end here. Also wanted to point out that thanks to Achyuta Mataji, the recordings are also being uploaded in YouTube now. So Achyuta, were you able to do the real-time thing in YouTube that you were planning to?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay. But it's going to be done from the next week, right?
So you mean live?
Yeah, it live.
Yeah, so I tried it, Prabhuji. So I think I need to get everybody's Gmail. Like I need to go live from Hangouts, like Google Hangouts, and then that is tied to YouTube. So
Okay.
something like that. So Google Hangout Live, Google Hangout Air. That is. I need to put that in YouTube, and then that's how I go live. But I'll try to find out if there is any other way. But that's what I could figure it out.
So
Yeah.
I guess even if it does not get done, you're still planning to upload it
Upload it later, yeah.
later. Okay. So one way or the other, is going to be available in YouTube. The channel name is Nitai Sachisuta. So I think if you search for that channel, you'll see the recordings over there. And once again, I think um, I wanted to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to share Bhagavad Katha with you twice a week. So it's definitely enjoyable to me, and hopefully we'll move twice as fast and be able to complete the Bhakti Vaibhav in a reasonable amount of time.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we'd like to thank you because we know that this is it's hard to prepare so much because it's a lot of research, and I hope we are not putting too much pressure on you as well.
No, Prabhu, this is something that I enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhaya kripa sindhubhya cha patitnam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.